Cubs top pitching prospect Cade Horton has been put on a list as the number 3 pitcher in all of minor league baseball by a publication. We're going to talk about that, the impact that the right-hander could eventually have on the Cubs roster, and the All-Star game to Wrigley Field. There's some talk about that right now, but could that happen because of security issues around the ballpark? Well, it'd be great to have it back. Hasn't been there since 1990. We're going to talk about those and more. Welcome to the Cubs baseball channel, guys. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. That's a great way of saying go Cubs. Fly the W. Let's get this thing started. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs baseball channel. I'm Mick Gillispie with the catfish himself. This is chat. This chat is real. Chad Anderson. I'm Mick Gillispie, and of course, I'm at Broadcaster Mick. What's up, dude? Welcome back.
I appreciate it, man. What a nice. I hate the winter. Just FYI, like I hate it so bad. So I have to take vacations in order to go find warm spots because I'm not a cold guy. But yeah,
a lot of cold across the whole country going on right now. But
no, good to be back. Good to see you. Excited. We're closing in on spring training, so it's getting here, but can't wait for it.
Yep, the pitchers and catchers officially report on Valentine's Day. Yeah. So that'll be for the Cubs anyway, Valentine's Day, and then a few days later, the roster will be there, and the Cubs will be getting ready for 2024. All right, let's get into this right off the bat. There's beautiful Wrigley Field.
Gorgeous.
With just an awesome view. I mean, you could put like a million different pictures of Wrigley up there, and there's just so many different, angles. Like, obviously that's the bleachers. I love the marquee sign, obviously looking inside the ballpark. Growing up, when I would watch the Cubs on WGN, it always felt like it was a movie set, and then going there for the first time, and as someone that was part of the organization, was so special, and getting to go and tour it and be a part of it has been great. So they're trying to get the All-Star game at Wrigley, and look, the Ricketts family has invested a bunch of money to fix this. You remember, the project. They had to put all new concrete in, and the bleachers are obviously in a different place. But now you can play football games in there, and concert venue, and it's great. I mean, it still has the historic feel, and part of the reward of doing that is that they should have the opportunity to host the All-Star game. But Chad, I mean, it kind of feels like Major League Baseball is a little bit concerned.
Yeah, it's frustrating because in my lifetime, I don't remember the All-Star game at Wrigley Field. I know Rhino was in the Home Run Derby, right? Back in 1990. Did he win it? Yeah. Yeah, Rhino was in that. But yeah, I mean, it's such an amazing. I remember 2015. When the bleachers were still concrete. Remember when the season started, there was that opening weekend or opening night against the Cardinals, and the bleachers had those stretched out banners of like players or something, if I remember right, is what it was. There was nobody out there, and then they got it ready for the middle of that season. But I mean, the Friendly Confines, man, like, and this is what sucks is the Cubs do all that work, and you've had so many franchises hosting the All-Star game like multiple times. Turner Field and Truist Park in Atlanta are both going to host the All-Star game before the Cubs are going to host it since 1990.
I know.
Fenway Park has done it. Yankee Stadium, of course, I think Yankee's done it, right? The new one, the new Yankee, I believe. Yeah, because that was Josh Hamilton, or maybe it was the old Yankee. That was his home run derby. But like these older parks have had it and done their thing and whatnot. And I don't know, like it does suck because as a fan, Cubs fan, Wrigley Field is it is hallowed ground. And So I went recently out. I was at the Rose Bowl, and I heard when I was walking through the tunnel, there was a guy and his son next to me, and they were walking through, and they said one of them had been there, one of them had not, and they looked at each other, and one of them goes, "Be prepared. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's like walking up the tunnel into Wrigley Field for the first time." And man, I'm not there to watch the Cubs. Obviously, the Cubs aren't playing in the Rose Bowl, but I got to be honest, Mick, I got a little bit of goosebumps, like little chills running down the spine, like hearing that, because it put it in perspective. Like you walk through that tunnel and you see the ivy out on the wall and the bleachers and everything. And they did such a good job with the renovation. And it's a shame that, it's not on the schedule anytime soon.
Yeah, well, it could be. The issue that they have, according to Crane Kenny, who did an interview on The Score, Bruce Levine show, is it's all about security. And Major League Baseball did an assessment of terrorism, and basically being able to drive cars and do some damage. Obviously, it'd be terrible, but there's just so many streets around there, so many thoroughfares to get in there, that's probably one of the things that they have to work on. Now, I was there for the World Series, and they had streets blocked off, and then they had officers that had, giant guns, and I know they do that a lot, So I mean, I'm sure that they could do it. I know they could pull it off.
Right. That's my rebuttal to that. Like, so what? The Cubs aren't allowed to be in the World Series? I mean, the World Series is bigger, and let's be honest, the 2016 World Series was bigger than any All-Star game draw is going to be.
Yep.
So you're trying, like, have we seen? We have. It's rhetorical. The mosh pit in front of Wrigley Field during Game 7 that took place in Cleveland took place away from Wrigley Field, and the streets were just flooded with humans. Like, to me, that's a weak excuse. I'm sorry, that one just doesn't fly. That doesn't.
Well, there's ways that you can fix this too. I mean, like I said, like you mentioned the fact that it's a weak excuse. To me, it's one of those things where the Cubs and the Ricketts family ownership has earned the right to host this. It is still one of the premier venues in all of sports, not just in baseball. Right. But you mentioned it, the Rose Bowl and Wrigley Field. I'd throw Fenway in there. There's some soccer stadiums over in Europe that you'd want to go check out.
Yep.
And I mean, to have the All-Star game back at Wrigley would be just such a great event. And I think that they'll eventually get it worked out,
Yeah, they should push hard on that one. Or that's where you go back to Major League Baseball and say, like, okay, you tell us then. Like, if you don't like our plan, and I don't know the negotiations, like, I don't know if the Cubs go and say this is our plan and MLB says no. But if that's the case, then put it back on them. Like, all right, what do you need? Like, what? We'll close off the northern half of the city, whatever, but there's got to be a way to make that work. It's just, I don't know. We have too much intel, technology, FBI, Secret Service, all those things like available, that surely you could figure this out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that it'll be something that they'll eventually, that'll happen. The Braves have it coming up, right? They had it got taken away. Then eventually, like, they got it back. It was because of political reasons. And where's the other place it's going to be? I want to say it's Cleveland. Off the top of my head, I could be wrong.
In there,
I need you to tell me that I'm wrong.
I think you're wrong on that one. I'm gonna try to Google it real fast, see how fast I can type. Future All-Star game locations. Globe Life in Arlington is this year.
That's right. Yeah. That's where I'm at.
Truist Park next year, and then Citizens Bank.
Okay, there we go. Look at that. Look how fast you made that happen.
Yeah, I mean, about 80 words a minute, but no big deal.
Nice.
So we'll see. I mean, I hope they can figure that out. Just gosh, man, like, there's no reason not to be at Wrigley Field. I don't know. I have a problem with all those excuses or reasons, but I don't know. One thing I don't have a problem with, though, is you sent me this article earlier just talking about, the prospects that the Cubs are loaded with. And Cade Horton, man. Is this a guy like everybody's so hyped about him? He randomly every now and then comes up in trade rumors, but the only time he comes up is for everybody to be like, you're not touching Cade Horton. Like, so he's not even a trade rumor. He's just the guy that people go,
that you're not trading.
Yeah, you pretty much have anybody but Cade Horton or something like that. So, I mean, what's the outlook this year for Cade? I mean, is he this final year in the minors? Chance we see him at the big leagues? I mean, what do you think? You've seen him a lot.
Yeah, I like him. I mean, I'm glad that he's getting the due that he deserves, because I think that he's got to stay healthy, obviously, right? And that's always the biggest fear you have with pitching, whether it's in the big leagues or the minor leagues. But great fastball. I mean, just a slider that is so hard to hit, and he can move that slider where he wants it. He's got a little bit of mean in him, a mean streak, and I love that. You know, he's going to back you off the plate. You're not getting comfortable. He pitches inside, which is old school, and he's got just a winner's mentality. He still has to get a little sharper with the control and command at times, you know, like the first and second pitch strikes, but he is a winner, and the Cubs are lucky to have him. And they drafted him out of Oklahoma, you know, waited for him. Everybody has the Tommy John surgeries. He's back and he's great. And it's exciting. I think he gets to the big leagues this season, 2024. I don't know when. I'm guessing that the Cubs will start him in Double-A. He pitched, you know, like 7 or 8 games there last year. But in the postseason, you talk about when we play it on here all the time. The Smokies are a sponsor of this channel, their team store, and the thing that they want was, hey, buy some of the championship swag we got, you know, some autographs and stuff like that we got as well. They don't win that championship without him. He pitched game 1 in both series. No, sorry. He pitched game 1 in the first series and won that one, and then pitched, you know, the decisive game to end the 45-year drought. And it was like, I just remember watching him and going, that they haven't had a guy like this. 45 years, they haven't had a guy like this in this game. You know, he's that special. So it's exciting to see. The Cubs, they're not going to trade him. You know, they shouldn't have traded Dylan Cease, and they did, and it's kind of regretful. You look at the guys that are in the big leagues now pitching. Javier Assad, you know, was like a low-level prospect at best. Yeah. And obviously he's made it. Still learning. Jordan Wicks was a prospect, but it didn't look like this. You know, he looked good, the changeup, you liked all those things, and you knew that he would have success, but it didn't look like this. Kyle Hendricks now, when he came through, was obviously finesse. But this guy's power, and then you had Justin Steele, who was hurt a lot in the minor leagues. So we never really saw him dominate. Just maybe a couple times here, a couple times there, a couple times here. This guy is just blowing through the system, and he's overpowering hitters. And like I said, it's all about developing that third pitch and becoming a little bit sharper here and there, sanding the edges. But I think that he's got star written all over him, kind of to me, like a Kerry Wood type guy. And I think it's really exciting to have him.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of his stat line. I mean, this is with the Smokies last year, a 1.3 ERA and 6 starts.
And the big starts. Yeah, and the big starts in the playoffs, like the big starts, the ones that count it.
Correct. Yeah. Only 11 walks, 31 strikeouts. Averages over 10 strikeouts per 9.
Yeah, and it's not like he's walking a bunch of guys. It's just in the big leagues, you want to get that. You want to start those at bats with the first and second pitch strike, you know. But he's not far off. You know, he's not at all. It is really exciting for the Cubs to have a guy like this. Just the mentality to me is a big part of it.
I know it's early, obviously, but what about last question for you on this? What do you think him and Counsell? Like, how do they mesh? Any idea yet? You heard anything yet on that? Because new manager, right? So in his mind, he's like, all right, I got a catcher who's my big leagues manager. And I'm assuming Rossi was connected with him. You know, usually I would think you'd be chatting a lot with your top prospects, or at least, you know, checking in on them and whatnot down on the farm. But Council, different setup. So you heard anything there on maybe their chemistry or whatnot?
I don't know about them personally, like how that, hey, what's your relationship? I mean, Council's new to the organization. I'm sure they met at Cubs convention, and they'll get to know each other in spring training because Horton will be there and he'll get a lot of looks. But the reason Craig Council has this job is that he's able to help guys that are young transition into the big leagues. Mm-hmm. And this is a guy that is going to get to the big leagues, who's going to get there and is probably going to struggle, because that's what everyone seems to do these days. That AAA to big league jump has gotten so much higher since we've watered down the minor leagues. And so maybe there's some cash that's saved by not having as many teams and moving guys up faster. But the jump has become a lot more difficult. Yeah. So I think for him, it's just going to be one of those deals where he's just going to have a manager who has made a career on helping guys adjust to the big leagues and continue to develop even in that big league uniform. And I'm sure that's something that the Cubs saw when they brought in Council. Hey, we got Cade Horton coming. We got Pete Crow Armstrong coming. Now Michael Busch, who they just traded to get from the Dodgers, who could potentially be a huge star. We don't know. I would not discount Matt Mervis, because having the competition of Michael Busch for that first base job is going to make him a lot better. It always does. Competition always does.
Sure. Pushes you. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Alexander Canario, you got all these different guys that are all going to be pushing up there. So I think that by the time he gets to the big leagues, he's going to look around the clubhouse and he's going to be very comfortable with some of those faces. He's going to know those guys from the system.
Yeah, I hope so. It should be exciting watching him come up.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Chad, let's talk about you for a second. Let me throw your graphic up there. The mortgage company that you own, and of course now you're even more sophisticated with your ChadwickAnderson.com website.
Yeah, I know. Went legal name. ChadAnderson.com was taken, so I don't know what that site is, but don't go to it. ChadwickAnderson.com. And you can make fun of me if you'd like. It's a snobby name. I hate it, so it's all right.
No, I like it.
Yeah.
Uppity.
Yeah, it is. It's very uppity. I feel like somebody on the Titanic probably had Chadwick as a name. But no, we've actually had some really cool stories lately. Won't get into all of them, but we've done recently with the little rate dip 3 cash out refinances for some people, and we saved one family $400 a month, one family $600 a month. One family, we actually saved, this not a lie, not a fabrication embellishment, $3,300 a month is what we saved them. Like insane. That's second most ever. So anyway, if you'd like some info, want me to check out your scenario, websites there, ChadwickAnderson.com. Scan the QR code. We'll hook you up with some free stuff at closing. But glad to have you, glad to be back, and glad to help whoever wants it.
All right. And don't forget, we're also brought to you by those Tennessee Smokies and their team store, smokiesbaseball.com/store. They got the championship swag we talked about. We've got game-worn jerseys from guys like Cade Horton, who were on their team, baseball cards, all that stuff. Find out for yourself, smokiesbaseball.com/store. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and we will talk to you again really soon. Go Cubs.